All human progress is preceded by questions. And the better questions you ask, the better results you get. Hey, welcome to another Rare Leader Conversation with myself, Torian Jailing. And I wouldn't be right, if I didn't say the wonderful.
Danielle Jalen.
And, today we're going to be talking about what kinds of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life. So, we said earlier, all human progress is preceded by a question. And I think for those of you guys who are watching on YouTube or on Twitter and Facebook, I want you to write this question down today because I think, there's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, is a life not inspected, is it a life worth living? And I think it's so easy to just get in the routine of things and not ask yourself, like, really, am I truly living my best life? And I think in terms of as we evolve as leaders, and it comes to awareness, then acknowledging it, and then taking action on it. So that was the question Neil and I came up with today: is what kind of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life? So I'm going to start out with. So recently, my son and I, we've gotten into chess, and I used to beat him at chess all the time. Now he's gotten a lot better at chess. And so one of the things that I've been doing as of late, not every night, but more than not, is before going to bed, because sometimes I'm just up and going, I will play a game of chess or two. And my rating has gone down now, Danielle, because I'm falling asleep while I'm playing the timed game. Uh, but that's a routine that I've also got into that's not allowing me truly, I believe, to have my best sleep at night. I and I think too is like, your last thought becomes your first thought. And I start dreaming about chess. And like I'm not and wake up thinking about chess. So that's one habit right there. A routine that's kind of gotten myself into. I mean, my rating is like 381 now. It used to be like 590. So that tells you how many times I fall asleep playing chess. Um, when you think about that question, Danielle, what kind of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life? One, what does that make you think of? And two, what's a habit for you?
Part of that I feel like is my later bedtimes and then my early mornings. Um, so the habit of not getting to bed early enough to get my recommended amount of sleep that I need a night, and then getting up early, hitting snooze instead of just getting up because I'm still tired, and then most mornings after you and Ezekiel leave, I lay back down for a morning nap for like an hour, hour and a half. And so I think that in itself, the broken up sleep is not helping. The late bedtime is not helping. And so my days are all like wonky and off when I used to be able to get up and hit the road and run at 4:45 every morning. So um, something in there, I think for myself needs to change.
Yeah. I think another thing for me in terms of like what kinds of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life, I've been doing a better job of this, but Jim Rohn, if you've never heard Jim Rohn, I encourage you to look him up on YouTube. He's been my virtual mentor for many years. And he is the mentor of Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, just to name a few. And he says, when you're at work, work. When you're play. And I think a routine that I can get better at, and I feel so much more dialed in when I do it, is when I'm working out, just listening to my music, not getting on social media, not looking at my emails. Like when I'm in that moment, just be in that moment, like be where my feet is at. And I think this applies not only just to working out, when I'm with family, on my way to work, I do a pretty good job of not going into my emails, but I'll peek every so often because I that 22-minute drive from my home to my office, it gives me a chance to really reflect on my day, my plan, and just get myself in the right mindset. So that's another routine that I gotta. It's probably limiting my experience in terms of my workouts. It can be limiting my experience in terms of my engagement with my family and others. Is be where my feet's at. Not going to distractions. And like we listened to it on Sunday because you do things because you're bored. Like you go on your social media because you're bored, right? Or you don't want to attack what you need to attack, procrastination, or you don't have a clear. So that's another routine that may be limiting my experience of everyday life. What about you?
Right now, that's pretty much all of it because it just that kind of dictates my day on whether or not I get a lot of things done or not. And so just making sure that I'm writing out my plan. So not consistently writing out my plan each day of what I want to get done. Um, and then following through on all that.
Yeah, something about writing out your plan, like it becomes organized thoughts. I think as human beings, we are designed to grow, but we're the only creatures on this earth that will actually limit our growth. If you think about it, we're the only living organism on earth that will limit our own growth. Trees, they'll grow as high as they can. Animals, they'll get as big as they can. Weeds in the garden, they'll get as tall as they can. But us as human beings, we'll limit our own growth. And I think there's a lot of different reasons why we do that. I think when you look at this question, what kinds of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life? I think you also got to take it to that next step further. Like, what is the life that you want to live? Like, how do you want to live? I think that's the question we got to ask ourselves. And I was listening to a talk this morning. When you're in business, when you're in sales, do it for purpose versus profit. And I heard that at first. I'm like, wait a second here. If you're in business, like your goal is to make a profit. What I think they were saying was, if you're doing it only for the money, it won't be fulfilling. I mean, it'll be a temporary fulfillment because you're filling a certain need, but will it open the door for long-term fulfillment? And remembering your purpose of why you do what you do. You know, for example, if I say I'm a father or a dad, or if I'm my son's number one fan, like they're all three similar roles, but I get a lot more juice when I think about, hey, I'm my son's number one fan. I'm my wife's number one fan. So I think when you look at your routines or habits, what's dictating them? Do you have a clear vision of where you want to be and why you want to be there? I think that's the most important thing. Like when you're working out, are you working out? Is it a routine or habit that's limiting your experiencing living a more healthy life? It's always working out to lose weight. That may be true, but why do you want to lose that weight? Why is that then? And is that written down? And have you articulated that? Because if you don't, that routine or habit could be limiting your experience of everyday life. What other things come to mind when you think about this question, Danielle?
Well, I think too, a lot of like my day, I'll shower at night versus in the morning. And I think when I shower, obviously I could shower at night and in the morning, but I get up, I shower at night, I get up in the morning, I'm like, well, I'm just going to work out and get sweaty anyway. But I think that shower in the morning triggers something differently in your mind of how you're going to start your day and go about your day. Because even if I shower and I go for a run, I feel like I'm more energized during my run just because I started my day differently. Like I started it ready to go versus just kind of, I'll shower at the end of the day after I'm done with all this stuff. I think that is one habit or routine that um, can change and really dictate differently how your day goes.
What I'm hearing you say, a lot comes down to, and I said it too, my morning
Mhm.
routines. Your morning routines and your evening routines dictate your day. crappy morning will probably result into a crappy day. You know, I mean, is the first thing you check in the morning your social media? Is that the first thing? No, I know it's not you. You're doing good now. I'm not doing it neither. But like that can make that habit or routine can limit your experience of the life that you live. If you're feeling like you're behind in the morning, I just want to encourage you to look at your routine in the morning. If you feel like you're behind in your days, you're not energized, I think the first place a person's got to look at is their routine. There's a Harvard professor. He works on neuro science, working on the brain and why we do what we do and how the brain reacts to different things. He talks about in the morning when you wake up, the first thing you should do is get some sunlight. Now you may live in an area that may not get sunlight, but you want to get some kind of light right away. Number two, he talks about drinking water because your body gets dehydrated overnight. And it's like you're starting the car up without putting any gas into it. It takes a little bit longer to, but first thing we'll do a lot of times drink a cup of coffee. Well, if you don't know this, coffee actually dehydrates you versus hydrates you, unless you have a little cream in it maybe in the morning. The other thing is movement, moving in the morning. And I'm going to tell you, I can tell the mornings when I do my yoga and my air squats and my jumping jacks and my push-ups versus the mornings I don't. It is a difference. I'm a little bit more sluggy in the morning. I'm still a little bit more stiff because I didn't do it this morning. I can admit this. We're being real here, right? A rare leader was someone who was willing to engage as well. And I think, you know, getting that movement. So water, movement, and then also reading for me and just listening to something positive. This morning, let's see. I'll give you guys an idea of what my morning was today. I can find it. So
Peaches from
I
the Mario movie.
yes. So I think sometimes folks, you need to find the things that are gonna get you going in the morning and get going in the right way. So I'm gonna share with you guys real quick something that I listened to this morning. Bear with me here. It's gonna take a little time to get warmed up. But it's things like this that can put you in the right mood. Now, bear with me. Here we go.
This one
If you haven't watched the new Mario
is
Bros.
from
Movie, if you
my
have
one
not
and
yet,
only true love,
but here it
Princess
is.
Peach.
Can you hear it, Danielle?
Peach,
Can you hear it?
so cool. And with my star, we're gonna rule. Peach, understand. I'm gonna love you till the very end. Peaches, 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 peaches. Oh, yeah, yeah. Peaches, 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 peaches,
So, what you guys know this or not?
You can stop it now.
I stopped it. I stopped it. But everyone's going like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on here now? This has really gone off cliff." No. But the fun thing is, I got that song going this morning. I chased my wife around the house on it. So as I was singing her the song, and it started the day with smiles and laughter. And one of my goals each day is to bring joy and laughter to my family, and that's the morning routine. So going back to this question, do you need
No,
to see?
not playing this song is not your morning routine.
It can be a new morning routine. I mean, we could do it. We could put speakers throughout the whole house. And at a certain time, instead of our alarm clocks going, we can or we we can play this song throughout the whole house, and everyone can be singing "Peaches, Peaches, Peaches" in the morning. What do you think? New morning routine? But my point is, it's like it helps put a smile on our face. And when you look at this question, what kinds of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life? There are habits and routines that serve you, and there's habits and routines that do not serve you. And we've talked about both, you know? And I think when we sit back and reflect on our life instead of just getting on the proverbial hamster wheel and going, wait a second here, is this limiting my experience of everyday life? Is this helping me get closer to my vision and my purpose for my life? Or is it taking me further away? And I think when we get honest with ourselves and ask ourselves this question, even though we may not want to ask ourselves those questions, that's how we progress, though, as human beings. Because all human progress is preceded by a question. So, Danielle, as we finish up here today, what would you say some final thoughts when it comes to this question? What kind of routines or habits limit my experience of everyday life? Peaches, peaches, peaches.
Well, hearing this question, I think just makes you reflect on if you did a goal booklet at the beginning of the year, like where you're at. We were obviously done with our first quarter, and so I think that it kind of for this to come up as our question for the day really just triggers the point of like inspecting where you're at, like what if you're at where you're at, what were the habits that helped create to where you're at? And if you're not, what's holding you back? Are there things going on? As I joked with Ezekiel too, like some of his grades aren't A pluses right now, they're A's. And I was like, if it keeps dropping, we're gonna have to look at this chess game that you and dad keep playing. But as a joke, but it's I know that he's getting his stuff done, that there's just a little bit more challenging work in some of the classes right now. And not that I would ever be upset with him about his grades, but um just reflecting like what am I at where I'm at, why am I where I'm at.
Yeah. And not asking it as a, like, critical point, but just assessing, like, defining your reality. And I think that's where I would in myself is that, a leader's job is to define reality and then give hope. And you may be at where you want to be at. Congratulations. Give yourself a round of applause. You're on the upward trajectory. Or you might be in the place where you're like just surviving. You're like, oh, I gotta go through another day. Stop. Like, stop putting crap on crap. Right, wipe it off. Stop stinking. And, like, really assess where you're at. We might be dying. You might be like, feel like you're completely drowning. You're going backwards. Stop. As a leader, you first got to become aware of what's going on, then acknowledge it, and then take action. And it's the next quarter. Let's take some positive action to continue to move forward, to be a rare leader, resourceful, adaptive, resilient, and engaging with others to make an impact in our communities, in our homes, and our workplace. So until next week, peaches, 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 peaches. I'm Tony Jalen, joined by the wonderful, the amazing.
Danielle Jalen.
See, you guys like how I did that? Like, she's got to just have to own that. Go out and be a rare leader. And if you feel value in today's m- question or comments, please feel free to put your comments and share this with others. Until next week,